Lion Golf Academy. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. We've got some live streams to catch up. It's been about a month since I've done these just because we've been a bunch of stuff already came up and affected our schedule. So there's going to be no videos this week. We're going to do only live streams. So Monday through Friday, starting today, we're going to get 5 or 6 every day. That'll get us 30 by the week, and we should be caught up. So if you would like your swing analyzed, there is going to be a jot form link on the description below after we've done the live stream. But you can go on our channel and look at any videos, and it will show you the live stream. It's a jot form link. Just send your face on down the line like James did here on the screen, and we'll get you the best suggested advice. Now, keep in mind, it's advice. It's not a must. If you watch this channel, you know it's all about cause and effect based on your golf swing. If you have any questions at any time, just go ahead and submit it on the comments during the live stream and on the comments after the live stream if you have any. But let's get to it. This is James Green, 75 years old, 6'4" tall, not very flexible. Downswing is steep and out to in. Ball flight is a fade. Clubs are 1 inch longer than standard. So let's take a look at this cause and effect. Now you have to, I can't look this way. I set it up today so the screens are on the right side. So I'm not Stevie Wonder looking like this. I'm trying to actually look at the swings. All right. So we see very short range of motion, which is fine. Nothing to worry about there. We see some loss of posture. We see some balance issues. We definitely see that steepness, which will cause that fade. Now, is the fade a killer? No, not at all. Tell Colin Montgomery that fade's a killer, and tell Jack Nicklaus fade's a killer. You can still play good golf. Now, the question is it's down to misses. Can you miss them with control? Are you missing them in Having Camp's pool, killing turtles? Or can you miss it within a limited range? So that's the key. But on the meantime, let's just take a look at the right side of the screen. Ball position is favoring a slight forward press. We do our best to turn. That's for his age and his range of motion, that's all we're going to be dealing with. We can't expect further range of motion at this point. And he does a pretty good job here. He keeps his hands out in front of his chest. He's still keeping that connection. So you see this connection here. It's doing pretty well. And we see a little bit of the hand release. So it's not like he's flipping. He's not, stalling anything out. He's just kind of stuck with what his motions are. But let's take a look at the right side. And let's do Barney Purple. Barney's got to make a appearance. There's that spine angle. Let's just take a look at the overall spine angle and see what's going on. So we do see some weighting issues already. I see the weighting moving towards the toes. This is to fight that low inside takeaway to keep that balance. Sets it pretty nicely. So we can see this motion here right there. So a little bit of sequencing issues, but not much we can do with that. Let's take a look at impact though. Yep. So impact, we see a rise of our initial setup. So we see it's coming on up. Back brace line is coming in, and we follow through. He still stays pretty good in that posture. So you see the shoulders return back to perpendicular to that. So let's take a look at his shoulder tilting at the top of the swing here. That's the top of his swing. Club is deep enough. So we see here the club it's adequately deep. So it's not like he's losing turn. But look at this. The shoulder tilt is actually lifted up of Barney Purple. Now, if you take a look at the relationship between the new shoulder tilt, which is in green, and his new spine angle at impact, they're perpendicular to each other. So it looks like his body is comfortable in the green setup, but he's setting up in purple, which will also cause a front-loaded takeaway, which we do see him crash into the golf ball and his takeaway. So he gets weight stuck on his toes, and we can tell on the follow-through, look at the direction he's falling. So he falls towards his toes. See the right foot come out? So definitely some weight distribution issues. If this was me, James, and I was working with you, we'd be changing your setup. I mean, I think you need to change your setup to reflect green. So try to stand a little bit closer. Try not to stand as far bent forward, because your body wants to find that green setup naturally. It finds it here at impact, and your shoulder tilt works really well around that setup. Will this eliminate your transition? You might not see it right away. I mean, you might still see this over the top move, but when you're so loaded on your toes, it's hard to transition correctly unless you can push back and tilt under, which with your range of motion issues, that's not happening. So for you, let's just start you off with a little easier setup. So let's draw this in yellow. So let's stand a little bit closer and a little bit taller. So feet are just, you're not going to be bending as much. Arms will still hang down naturally, but then your shoulder tilt can work around this at the top of your swing. So there'll be less issues and you do it really good there. So I think just try that out. Other than that, there's really not much you can do. 75. We can't reinvent the wheel here. We just got to make do with what we have and use your rotation that you have. Other than that, you do a really good job of staying connected. Your sequencing looks okay. It looks just like you're fighting your weight distribution. So I hope that helps you. Let me see who's next here. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Delete. And delete. All right, let's see who's next. Next, we have Brian. Let's pull up Brian's videos. And download. Download. There's one and there is two. Let's see if we can drop it. Oh, we got to delete this one. All right, moment of truth. This could be a very short stream. Nope, we're good. Look at that. Got two more coming up here. All right, let's zoom in. We can play this while I read his notes. Lefty action going on here. All right. What's going on with Brian? Brian, 52 years old, no major body limitations other than being stiff, 52-year-old male. Played some as a teen, recreationally without lessons. Started back 9 months ago, and I've had several lessons with the PGA Pro. Tendencies to push, slice the ball. Instructor changed my neutral grip to a strong grip. Over time, it has helped my slice, and I'm now hooking the ball. So recently, I've lessened my strong grips. Other tendencies is to hit it fat. All right, let's take a look. Let's see who's here. Snap, forgot to take a video, front send to you. No problem, Mike. If it was a recent submission, you still got time. I'm not doing videos this week. I'm doing only streams. So Monday through Friday, we're going to do a stream every day because I've got about 30 on the waiting list. And some of these have been here for a month. So I want to get all these people out the system. So just resubmit it and don't worry about it. Send me a face on and then look for it this week because I'm banging all these out. Thank you so much, Y2 Dunger. Appreciate it. All right, let's take a look here. We went from a fader to a drawer. We changed the grip. Golf coach changed his grip. Let's see. Okay. There's a little, not too bad. Okay. Face on. Yep. A little bit of hip sway going on there, getting trapped on his lead side here. Not a lot of turn as a result. And there's a little bit of that chicken wing. Okay. I wonder what his range of motion. He said he's stiff for a 52-year-old. Club gets decently deep enough. So we're looking at this line here. And how deep does it get related to his setup? So let's go back to his setup and see where he's setting up for this. A little high setup, almost one plane-ish. Spine angle. Sorry about all these lines. Okay, so his centeredness is here. So the club gets pretty deep for that centeredness. All right. Make sure we didn't miss any notes. Okay. So in terms of that setup, let's change this so it's not so thick. Can anyone send their swings? Yes. Milan, is it Milan Bota? Pracha Afrikaans. Milan, yes, anyone can send their swing in, except there's a waiting list. Typically, I used to do these once a week, but I haven't been able to do it for about a month just because of scheduling. So we got 30 people on the list. I'm going to do a live stream every day. So yes, you can go to my main channel under any new video. You'll see the submission link. It's a jot form. Hit that link. It'll send all that stuff. You can just upload a couple videos and I'll take care of you. You'll probably be on this week. So face on, let's take a look at this setup here. We got the ball position out in front. Not sure what this golf club is. It looks like a longer club. We got the shoulder tilting. We got the hands slightly back of that shoulder tilting. So the club is somewhat forward pressed for that tilting. This will run into some issues though, because this first takeaway, you see that the hip is sliding out this way. And when it slides out this way, it's going to maybe force this upper body to lean the wrong way. Right? So this is going to restrict that turn, because if the hips are moving laterally, they're not turning as much, which then you're only flexible enough from your shoulder rotation to your hips. So at some point, it comes down to your flexibility. We know he is not flexible by his own admission. So we're going to reduce our depth, natural depth. So there might be some manipulation to get that depth back with these hands. So we might see that hands pulling back away from his natural turn. Now this turn here looks a little bit better than the face on. So I'm not sure if that was just the face on view that lacked the turn with the hips, or if that's just his swing and it just looks different from different angles. I don't think it's different from different angles. But from that top position here, now we've got a little bit of weight distribution issues. And our center point is going to be way behind that golf ball. So now we've got to somehow get our center point to make sure we strike down by moving that center point over. Now it depends on how you sequence. Let's say you sequence naturally and you get your hips to drive first. That's going to keep your upper body back unless you get a whole body to move over. So let's watch that sequencing. So we try to get that whole body over. It stalls out here. So now our centeredness is going to be still behind that golf ball. So what's there to save? We got to do some hand manipulations to try and save it. So we're tilting a little bit too much to get our hands out in front instead of reducing that tilt and getting our whole body out in front to hit down on the golf ball. So we could be scooping a little bit. So we could have some fat shots. I think he said, yeah, other tendency is the fat shots. So that's where the fat shots will come in. Obviously the hooks, if you have a strong grip and you're doing this to save the shot, you're going to close that club face down. So there's some sequencing issues that's causing this as well, plus some centeredness issues. And there's a way around this, is to just play that golf ball further back, but that's assuming you're going to keep the same ink swing principles and you're not going to adjust those to make those work. So, at least you can kind of see where this is stemming from, but without being able to increase your range of motion, there's little things you can do other than changing your setup. If you wanted to do this perfectly, you would focus on turning this hip so it's going towards the targets, which will then get this shoulder to turn more. So then you can kind of stay in your initial tilt so you don't get this lean back here. So you're going to have to unlean. And when you unlean, this will fall back, and that's going to give you some issues with your center point. So that's number one, is if you want to do it like the correct, we'll call that correct way, is to do some in-swing principle changes. But to accompany that, that ball position, you need to try and level these shoulder tilts out, but then keep those hands just out in front of that ball position. So the ball position would probably need to be 1 or 2 golf balls back to help you control that center point. Because right now your center point is just slightly ahead of that new golf ball position, and then you can make that work. So you don't have to get a little bit of this hand manipulation down at impact, which could explain your fats and could explain now your hooks with a stronger grip. Let's see here. Can anyone? Yep, got that. Waiting list is fine. It means people want your opinion, which is good. I assume so, Milan. Let's just hope that's the case, and it's not because it's free. Well, what's that saying? You get what you pay for. I hope to make that difference. Free doesn't mean garbage. It's just my way of giving back. So I hope that helps you, Brian. Let me know in the comments if you need some clarification. I hope that helps you at home if you're facing similar issues. Let's see who is next. We got Bill coming on up. Let's delete Brian. Where's delete? Goodbye, Brian. And Bill. Let's download some Bill video. I love this system. It's so much easier than what we were doing before. All right, we got 1 and we got 2. It looks like a driver. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. All right. Let's play this and let's read what's going on with Bill. Oh no. Does Bill have the glitchy video this week? One's glitchy, one's not. All right, Bill. And just so everybody knows, I've never seen these swings. It's not like I go and studying before. I just want to get them. There's too many. I got too much stuff to do. Hi, Tony. Again, I forever appreciate what you do for the learning community. No problem. It's my pleasure. I feel I need more distance from the ball at address. Okay. But I struggle to physically make contact. Same issues before I cut the shaft down from 45.5. I experimented with shaft length and found the shorter length helped immensely with consistent contact. Yes, it will. I used to play a 43-inch ping driver with a steel shaft for a while. I think I'm leaving a lot of distance on the shelf, whether it's my mechanical limitations or hardware. More than likely, it's mechanics. Yes, most of the time, club fitters will tell you it's the hardware, obviously, because they want to sell clubs. Coaches will tell you it's in swing. Obviously, it could be both, but I'm always in favor of, hey, look, man, the club can only do so much, and most of us are average players. We don't need the extreme club changes, and that to me is where club changes need to occur, unless you are, obscenely long or short, have short arms, long arms that really affect contact. But even then, people find a way to make their clubs work. That's where a lot of these junior players develop. It's hard to change their principles or their setup because, you could have a junior that's playing very heavy clubs and is building a really good compensation. Now, do you change that setup to accommodate custom fit clubs that fit them, and you potentially rob them of becoming a really good player? That's a decision we have to make daily. So everyone's so unique. I go back and forth between the GT2 and GT3. I found the GT3 goes a bit longer for me. I've been using that the past 5 rounds. Average carry is 285, 294 with the occasional 250, 270. And the rest goes into stats about the driver. But first, let's look at the compensations here. Let's look at principles. Looks like a very, very strong guy, which obviously helps. Strength does create speed. Okay. A lot of turn going on there. Is that a deck driver? No, it's on the tee. I was about to say. Decent there. A little bit of hand under. Okay. Yeah. Let's take a look. Where's that now? It'll help to get a line going. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we do have a lot of turn going on here. Let's see down the line. Obviously, we look a little open at address. So that right shoulder is really, covering everything. But hey, if you can compensate that, you don't have to change it. All right. Rolling of the hands, club face is opening, which will help increase the turn. So we do see the turn increase quite a lot. And the hands, they're a little bit independent there. And that gets pretty tight there. So you see that club head on the shoulder. Look how tight those are. We drop it somewhat in the slot. It's looking pretty good. Club face is still fairly open. It's a little disconnected from the body though. So we see the hands now have to kind of bring that club back out in front. The body will slow down the turn and the hands are reconnecting here. We're starting to jump up and not necessarily push into our heel. Where's my thing? Not necessarily this way. What's going on here? I can't draw on this side. There it is. Look at that. I can't draw beneath this. There's like a hidden zone there. And we strike the ball. Hands are still independent. So this looks like a little disconnection here. There's a lot of little things going on here. But the first thing I want to try and get squared away is this right shoulder covering and then also this potential ball position. So we take a look at the tilting. I hope my computer's not blowing up on me. Okay, so ball position. If you guys want to look at a good setup with a driver, go to John Rahm. Look at how his golf ball is connected to his center of his tilting, and the hands are also connected to that. So we see this connection. The hands are pretty close to that centerness, but the golf ball is way behind. Now, if this was truly connected there, his golf ball will be out in front of his foot. Now, the problem with that is now you have a path that is always going to be further left when you strike the golf ball, which will now involve the open relationship. So things are going to be working left to right, which is not a good thing. So you would need to tilt your shoulders a lot more to get to that golf ball to stop the path working left after you strike it. So the more you tilt, the more it gets those arms out in front, keeps them more into out or straight down the line. So you don't slap at it and swipe it and having camps pull. Or that's a big having camp pull on the right side. So that's the first thing I would look at is like, okay, well, how far can we get away with this? Can you tilt enough to can you tilt at impact this way to make that golf ball position work, the new one. If you can, perfect. Let's work with that. If you can't, we've got to level some things out. So number one, I would probably start to level some things out with him just to start him off kind of neutral. So we get the tilting. He's got a nice wide shoulder, so this might help. So we get the tilting slightly less. We get the hands out in front. We put the ball position maybe one ball further out. So the club's going to be sitting back here. Doesn't sound like much, but it makes a big difference. Then we look at the way he turns. Now, that right shoulder being open on this back view, one way to cure that is to either really close your shoulders on the way back, which means you have to really close your hips on the way back, or you start to roll and pull your hands back. So we take a look at which one he does. Now, obviously, there's more than one, and I can't draw the line there. Let's see if I can draw it this way. It stops right there, so we're kind of going to be stuck. So let's take a look as we take that club back. We see the hands will be rolling here. So if this is truly a down the ball line, we'll see the hands disconnected. So you'll see that this circle here, the club will probably be back of those hands, which means he's rolling the club face open. And you can see he's rolling the club face open with that club face position is running away from his initial spine angle. At this point, if you want a true tilt turn connection, that club face will probably be closer to that spine angle. But he can't do that because if he did that, he would be very steep takeaway and it would require him to reroute. And when you get steep on the takeaway, you start pulling your weight in towards your toes. So at some point, he's learned on the setup to roll those hands open to counteract that open open shoulders at starting position. And then once you start compensating one thing, the whole swing is now all just compensations from that point. So then at the top of the swing, because he has rolled his hands and arms open, that can now alleviate some turns. So the more you roll your hands initially, the more you can turn at the top of your swing, which now he gets a huge amount of turn, as we can see on that face-on view. Look at the amount of turn. I mean, we can see almost that whole logo on the back of his swing. So he's getting well past 90. Hips are doing a good job, but I think he might be just overturning to make up for the open shoulders at the start of his position. And once you overturn, it's very hard to turn all the way back around to impact with a lot of turn going back here. You only have a certain amount range of motion. So let's put it this way. If I go to 90 degrees at the top and at impact, let's say for some reason I want to get to 30 degrees open. It means I have a 120-mile range of motion. But if I take that 120 and do it all in the backswing like he does, he has 120 degrees shoulder rotation, that same amount of rotation, he's going to be zero at impact. So you have to look at what you're gifted with and build it around that. So let's say you only have 120 degrees of rotation. You don't need 120 degrees on the way back. You need 90 on the way back and 30 at impact if that's what you want to shoot for. So bottom line, this is a swing that is very unique because it's built upon the setup. And he's obviously a big, strong guy. And he's found a way to do this because he is athletic. And now the problem with being athletic is you can get away with a lot more than if you're not athletic. So now to him, a single change in his setup is going to be detrimental to all these in-swing compensations that he's developed. So this is a conversation I have with many students. It's like, look, you have two options. You can do it the long road, or you can do it the short Band-Aid road. Now, the long road is going to take quite a significant amount of time and effort from you. The short road is that, hey, let's just put some Band-Aids on this. Let's set up a little bit different to make your swing work for the week. And then once your body gets accustomed to that, we have to make some more changes. It's a lot easier, but you have to come in more frequently. And the longer road is 6 months to 6 years. It really depends on your ability, how much time you put into this game and what you've got going on. So I hope this at least makes sense for you, Bill. I know that's probably not the answer you're looking for in terms of like, what should you fix? For me, it's like you've got to look at your setup, look at your in-swing principles. If you want something to work on just to try it out, try pull that golf ball position back a little bit, close your shoulders a little bit so they're not starting so open, and look at that tilt-turn relationship at the start of your swing. And then just don't turn so much on the way back. Just use your natural turn, but without turning so much that you have to work so much harder on the way down at impact. Hope that helps you, man. Let's see. What in your opinion is the most important for club head speed? Connection, hand action, or ground forces? Man, To me, I hope I'm saying your name right, Malan. To me, clubhead speed, searching for clubhead speed is like a huge destroyer of many golf swings. It's not clubhead speed, it's ball speed. You can hit a ball further than you currently do with less clubhead speed, but more ball speed. So in other words, your contact's better. If you take a 1.4 smash factor at 120 miles an hour clubhead speed, you'll probably hit it just as far at 100 miles an hour with 1.5 smash factor. I don't know exactly the numbers, but hopefully you get my point. So I'd have to look at, if somebody's going to me to gain distance, we put them on a flight scope or a TrackMan and say, okay, let's take 50 golf ball swings with your driver, and let's look at your worst misses and let's look at your averages. And if we see, the worst miss is 1.25 to 1.5, that means the dispersion's so big that you can't get consistent distance. Something's wrong. And then let's say your average is 1.4. It's like, okay, I would much rather you swing slower, more control, and get that 1.4 to 1.5. And then once you get there more often, now let's talk about increasing clubhead speed, but without destroying your impact, because ball speed is the number one thing you guys need to look for, not clubhead speed. Let's see who's next. That one was Brian, right? I hope that was Brian. If not, we're going to find out. All right, so goodbye. One's gone. Two's gone. I think this is Bill. Let's make sure that this is not a duplicate. No, that was Bill. Okay. Yeah, that's right. This is our fourth one. Man, time's flying. We got Christopher coming up now. Let's download Christopher. 1 and 2. Got him. Got him. I need that soundbite for this. There's 1 and 2. Let's hope the computer gods don't blow up on him. Oh, these are all sequenced too. Nice. Looks like a nice smooth swing going on here. All right, let's take a look at his notes. All right, Christopher, one of your premium YouTube members. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Referred him. He's been helping me with my swing, but it says I need to contact a professional. I've been golfing for 1 year. I've been working on grip, setup, and ball position. I've been practicing several hours a day and become obsessed with the game. Hopefully my girlfriend doesn't leave me. My miss is topping or hitting thin. I'm not sure I'm controlling the club face very well. When I connect, I hit it far and prefer left to right shot shape. I did shoot 82 a few weeks ago, and I thought I'd figure it all out, but the next round fell apart. Yeah, that's golf, unfortunately. You can have it going perfectly one day. Man, you wake up, you can't wait to go to the golf course. And next thing you know, you go from shooting 80 to 95, and you want to quit the game. I think I've quit this game 50 times, but I always come back. All right, let's take a look. Overall, a really good rhythm. I like this rhythm. I like this tempo. Some disconnection going on early, and it might have to do with some rotation. Same sort of hip slide, which is going to affect a lot of things going on here. All right, let's just slow it down now. Let's take a look at that left side first. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're getting stuck. So it looks like so that right arm is getting a little bit trapped behind you. You try to find your way out of it. So you do a good job tilting here, and the hands have to kind of let go. It's pretty good. I mean, it's very close. Sequencing's pretty good. Your hip tilting's a little bit off though. Right here. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is you can kind of see your spine angle here. So spine angles look pretty good in your setup. That's a really good setup. Hands are pretty close to the spine angle. They're pretty close to that tilting too. Ideally, they'd probably be a little bit more out, but you're still getting a good forward press. Natural forward press, which is perfect. This is a good sequencing natural forward press. So you see that tiny little forward press that you're going on there in relation to your centeredness. So the centeredness is driven by your tilting and your rotation. It's not off your. I see so many people talking about forward press related to your lead foot and all that stuff. It's about the center of your circle. That's where things are generated from. So looks good. What we're looking at is the way this right hip moves. So we see it's doing pretty good here. It's not shoving over. Right about here is where we start to shove over slightly. So this will give you kind of like appearance of this back line starting to move the other way, right? So you can see a tiny little collapse here. This would work if you can carry everything together from this point. So in other words, you keep that same angle moving. You're here and you keep everything moving this way in your first move. That means your centeredness, which you're going to draw in, you know who, Barney Purple. Your centeredness is right about here, so it's slightly behind the golf ball. So if you can move everything together from there out in front of the ball, that's great. You keep everything related. You keep that spine angle facing down to the ground, that first move, and then you unwind and tilt and turn and do all that stuff. You're golden. Let's take a look what happens. So we don't necessarily move. You see, there goes that sequencing. So now your drive is coming, your hips are moving, but the upper body's compensating that. So when the hips are moving, the upper body's going to kind of fall back a little bit. So you're falling back and your center point doesn't quite get out in front where it needs to be. You haven't carried much of this good top position over. And then when you strike it, now you're falling back. You see the upper body's falling back. And then that's going to push your hands to be involved, to kind of throw a little bit too soon. So we see we're starting to lose a lot of this angle a little too early because of that inefficient motion from the top. So you can do two things. You can keep everything where it is, but that top move, go to the top and hold it. You can see the club face is slightly closed. It's all right. Go to the top and hold it where you are there. And then just get the feeling of your whole body moving in unison this way. That's your first move. It's almost like you're going to feel like your upper body's leaning towards the target. That's going to get your center point out of the golf ball. Once it's there, now just turn and tilt under naturally, and your hands will be forward pressing into the ground. You don't have to throw, because right now you're sequencing from this position. You're sequencing your hips, and everybody falls back. And now your hands are going to have to find that low point on their own by throwing and getting too involved. So I would imagine you might hit some thins, maybe the occasional fat just because of that. But it's because you're tilting almost like hitting a driver. So you're catching the top of the ball. You need to get that angle of attack to be a little bit steeper. So give that a try before you start messing with anything. I love your tempo, even post connection. So after you strike the golf ball, you can see things are looking really good here. This is phenomenal, but it just happens too late. It breaks down here and then reconnects. So everything's there. I think it's right there. I think you just need to work on that top position, first transition, turn and tilt under, and you'll probably take some pretty significant divots. So don't be shocked if you start digging your way to China. Hopefully it helps you, Christopher. Let's get rid of Christopher. And let's see who's next. And if anybody's watching, you got any questions, just let me know. Let's see how many we can get done today. Get a little lead start on the week. Larry's a subscriber of ours. All right, here comes Larry. 1 and 2. There's Larry. All right, we got a bunch of things to work on. So let's just play these over and over again while I go through Larry's notes. Okay, 63 years old, several orthopedic injuries from athletes over the years. Left shoulder surgical repair, torn both left and right knees, dislocated fingers, surgical repaired right elbow, ligament tears and ankle sprains in general, arthritis. Man, it sounds like the $1 million man here. Lead to lose weight and stretch more. I've been a subscriber for several months. Appreciate your work. Thank you so much. I tried to schedule a time to do a lesson with you, but I understand you're very busy in the summer. So this is hopefully the next best option. Thank you. You're welcome. If I'm not mistaken, I think you're over in like Whittier or Pomona area. So let's take a look. Let's see down the line first. So we know we got a lot of issues with range of motion and also a lot of surgeries. So we're not going to expect immediate changes. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I see it though. I see the little, that's really good though. I like it. Okay, we see that pretty significant forward press on the right side. Let's zoom in. Let's see what happens. Carried over pretty good though. All right, so specifically with somebody with so many range of motion issues and surgeries, there's only so much we can expect to happen. You do make that forward press work pretty good. Now, if this was a complete like face on where it's straight on the face, we'll definitely see that this is well outside. I can't go below this. Something's wrong with my programming here. All right, so we take a look at that. And then we also look at the shoulder tilting and the hands are out in front. So we see a pretty big forward press that we have to deal with. Now, when you deal with a forward press, there's a couple of ways to make this up. The tour guys and girls, not many girls forward press, most of the guys do, they are able to tilt significantly to carry that angle over correctly while they also turn significantly to keep that turn and tilt relationship together. If they turn too much, their path is going to be way off. If they tilt too much, their turn is going to not keep up with that as well. Now, amateurs, we kind of do things a little bit differently. I've seen most amateurs make this up by taking this low point and moving it in between those two forward press and your spine angle. So let's just take a note where his low point is now, and let's see what happens if he makes up for it the amateur way or if he finds a way to tilt and turn. So look at that. He found a way to return back to normal. Now, the hands might have to be involved a little bit to engage that, to make up for that. So he timed that one pretty good. I would imagine that on the occasional one where you can't time it, you are going to be a little bit fat and heavy. So I think most of his misses might come from contact issues, not necessarily directional issues. Let's go from that face on one more time and take a look here. Yeah, when you see that forward press as well, the shoulder alignments, everything's opening up right of his target. But again, there's nothing wrong with any of this as long as you can do it over and over again and you can get some compensations that can work over and over. So he sets it pretty good. Club is deep enough. So we see that club gets deep enough. And there's something wrong with my programming. What's going on in the background? Nothing. Drops it in. The club finds that lower plane line. I'll tell you what, Landry, this is a really good swing for what it is. I mean, for the setup changes that you probably have needed to make, just because of all the issues that you had with your body, this is probably the most comfortable setup that you have. Based on what I see, the setup that you have, you make work with in-swing compensation. So there's not really much that I see unless you give me some more statistical history, like your misses. Golf, to me, a successful swing, it doesn't matter how it looks, it's how it misses. So are your misses causing you big numbers based on your goals? If your goal is to break 75 at the swing, is this in-swing principle, causing double bogeys, triple bogeys, out of bounds, the occasional rope hook, shank? If that's the case, then okay, yeah, we might have to change some things around. But if you're making do with what your realistic goals are, there's no real point to change anything. And even then, with this type of swing, with your work, with your history of your body, range of motions, it's going to be very small, subtle changes that really, to me, doesn't warrant like private lesson. I think this is one where you just have to look at your current in-swing compensations. And if you swing normally like you do now, you can learn your in-swing compensations pretty good. I mean, that's a really good swing. So my advice to you is you don't need private lessons. The only time you really need private lessons is when something that you understand in your swing just goes away completely, and you just can't for the life of you get it back on track. Then you need to go to someone that you trust, that you've worked with in the past, to kind of retool you, that knows your swing. And it's not going to try and teach you some crazy shallowing move where you physically can't do it and your setup is fine. So that's the best advice I can give you, Larry. Other than that, I think just keep swinging what you're doing. If you want me to, reach out to me. I've got a stat sheet that I can give you that you can fill out a bunch of stats for 10 rounds of golf. And then I can look at your stats and see where potential issues are in your total game that can help you get to be better in terms of scoring. But it comes down to your goals. If you just want to be out there outdoors and play some fun golf and keep things light and easy, this swing's perfect. If you want to really take your game to the next level, depends what that level is, depends where you are now. So probably not what you wanted to hear, but I'm not going to just tell you to work on stuff. This is just a educational thing too for everybody watching. All right, Larry, thanks so much for your patience. Let's see, what time is it? All right, we're flying through these. All right, Larry's done. Let's go to Bill. Let's download Bill's. All right. Where is Bill's? 1 and 2. We got his coming up here. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Can I draw on this? Okay, see, I can only draw to this line here, which is a little bit annoying. Okay. Let's watch his swing while I go over his notes. All right, Bill. You have the best golf channel on YouTube. Thank you so much. I've been fighting a serious block push slice. Just can't seem to get rid of it. 53 years old, moderately active, and no known injuries to inhibit anything. I've just taken lessons from so many people that I have lost count. No tips ever seem to stick. Would greatly appreciate your help. How can I support you to keep the content flowing? Hey, man, just keep watching. That's all I ask for. By the way, I got a couple of giveaways to give out coming up next week. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's take a look here. Looks like a nice little golf course there. Left side first. Well, I thought there was a real swing. I was like, man, that's a pretty good connection. Okay, we see the arms coming off. Left shoulder's coming up. How do we utilize that to tilt under? Coming very far inside. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough right there. Okay, face on. And we got a forward press too. Okay, yeah, it looks like we're fighting a bunch of things going on here. Okay, I saw something comes in here. Sounds like a right-hand version of me. Yes, many of us just have our swings at work. If you have a swing that's somewhat repeating, just leave it alone. Just work on your game. Many other areas in your game that need attention. Okay, so a couple things here I see specifically at impact. So we take a look at impact. Let's look at that, where that ball position is. And remember, the ball position is target number 1. We've got to somehow hit that golf ball. And when you are, man, this thing's not. So we see our tilting, right? So our tilting is here. And for life, something's wrong with this. Forgive me for this delay here. The ball position is just too far back for this, so your hands have to go. So we start to lose a lot of our potential energy. So we see our tilting is shifted even more forward, and our hands are way behind that tilting, and they only cross over here. And we see the chicken wing come on in because we have to stand up and get out the way. So one of the reasons most of us stand up to get out the way is not necessarily to use ground force. We're just trying to prevent from hitting the ground. So if you were to carry over your angles correctly with the ball position that's too far back and you release it, you're going to make contact 3 or 4 inches behind the ball. So what's one way to get out of that way? You got to stand up. So we're standing up to hit the ball because the ball's too far back. So that's in swing principle. Now, if you take a look at where you are to start the swing, we can definitely probably say that ball position is a little bit too far back to start. So we see our center of a tilting. We see our hands are nowhere near that. The ball position should be down over here based on that setup. Now, there's no realistic way to expect you to put a ball position way out here, but that's what this setup is demanding right now. And we can see that our club shaft is forward leaning with a driver, which is not good. You want this club shaft to be back leaning So at the bare minimum, it should be over here, your ball position, which will cure a lot of things that's now in swing principle bound to make up for the setup. So a lot of swing changes that happen in swing are based on incorrect setup changes, because we hear a lot of this forward shaft lean. You want to steal this forward shaft lean, or we're just not aware of it. And this creeps up on everybody. It creeps up on me. Next thing you know, I'm playing the ball position center for my driver, and I'm wondering why I have issues. With my irons, I'm playing it too far back and I'm forward pressing without even knowing, until I see a video of myself. I'm like, oh my God, look at it's so ridiculous. There's no way for me that plays, once every blue moon and hits 100 balls a month to keep up with this. So this is definitely setup based. Now, in swing principles need to be applied too once you change your setup. So first things first, what I would recommend you do is get some weighting behind this golf ball. So right now, this ball is out over here. So we need to try and get some weighting. This looks almost like stack and tilt, like you're getting ready to stack this up. So you want to move the center more behind. So where your buttons are over here, move it back. And this will do a couple of things. Now all of a sudden you're tilting. If you want to keep that same tilting, that hands can now be there and that ball position can be there. But now you want to move your ball position so it's center of that tilt. So let's do this actually in different colors, because we got too many Barney purples here. Let's go with red. So now you're tilting. If you want to keep the tilting the same, we'll be back here. Your head's going to be here. And for some reason, I can't draw on this. Forgive this rudimentary thing, but for some reason, I'm stuck. So that's where your head's going to be. Your spine angle is going to be right about here. And ball position shifted out to here. So now all of a sudden, your centeredness is behind that ball. Your shaft is going to be pointing up. So now you're ready to hit the golf ball up with a driver, because it's on a tee. There's no reason to go down. And then from there, you just focus on turning. So you got a pretty decent turn going on here. You can see you try and turn around that right hip. So everything's looking good. You got that turn going on, but the ball's too far back, plus a forward press. Now you got to make up for it. So you get stuck. You're trying to stay back, but you can't stay back enough because that ball position is still forward. You start standing up to flip, and then you're trying to add. Look at where the shaft is. The shaft is pointing up here. So you're getting there, but you should be there to start with, because there you can hold things connected. You can be connected on your way back through. You can just sequence naturally. You can hold that tilting. You can launch the ball a little bit higher. All the good things that you hear on YouTube, and some of it, most of it, is not applicable to you, but it is applicable if you set up correctly for that. And that's usually the one thing that these tips forget to tell you. It's like, hey, here's this quick tip. Oh, and by the way, you need this setup to make this tip work. They just forgo that whole setup to make this tip work. And then you got somebody setting up for something completely different, trying to make that tip work, and it just collapses. It fights each other. So before you start changing in swing, go for that setup change, Bill. And let me know in the comments how that helped you. And if it didn't help you, let me know as well. Hope that helps you, though. And hope that helps people at home also recognize their setup, how very, very important it is, and how it can change in-swing principles. All right, let's see if we can do one more. We're on a roll here. We've already got, how many did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do 7 today. That's going to bang out a lot of them. We only got like 24 more. One a day we're doing to this week. Okay, there's a bunch of videos. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 8 videos. I don't think I'm going to do 8 of them, Andrew. I'm just going to randomly pick 2 of them and hope there's a face on. See if I can get another. Okay, good. We're going to pick these 2. And we got a bunch of PDFs. So we're going to pick this one. Okay, here's Andrew. Bing and boom. Let's see these. Okay. All right, let's read Andrew's. Hello. I'm hoping you can get to my Swing on Your Live video tonight. Sorry, this it's a month later. So yes, it'll be tonight, a month later. If not, understand because I sent it in late. One download view and a poor face-on view on hitting a 6-iron and a 7 handicap. And I learned from previous stream, I'm coming in really shallow and not steep enough, but I'm making it work. I should mention I have a torn labrum and rotator cuff in my right shoulder, okay, which could affect getting that club beneath you. You look pretty good, though. You look like you're doing it. I didn't mention these the first time. I feel like to be helpful. I've been working on getting a bit steeper and not so shallow, but it's very slow going. All right, let's take a look. Let's look at the left side first. All right. Yeah, I see it already. Yeah, a little disconnection. Let's see that face on. Yeah, look at those hands. Okay, so hands are very, very, very hard to work on. Even if you have a good ball position, let's say you used to play with a ball position way back and your hands just got used to being very quick and you develop around that and you've got incredible hand speed. Even if you move the ball way forward, those hands are still going to fire. It's just one of the frustrating things about hands. Now it's the last thing to change in the golf swing. It's one of the first things you would like to change, but it's usually the last thing that does change. What forces the hands to change is putting them in different positions. And what forces that is getting the body more involved, whether it's tilting or turning. And then what forces that is the initial setup, making sure that ball position is set up to accommodate the turn and tilt, which then puts your hands in a new position, which then they'll get a negative feedback from when they used to get a positive feedback. And they don't, it's like a dog. You don't want negative feedback, and you'll start to learn to hold it differently or release differently, whatever it is. But that takes a long time, and it's very frustrating because at the same time, the only way for you to get better results is to go back to what you were doing. So then you're going to fight the regression of going back to kind of what your body was doing it, even if you don't know you're doing it. So next thing you know, you've been hitting 500 golf balls, thinking you're doing it differently. You take a video and you look and you go, oh my God, I look the exact same. I must have gone from one extreme to the other without even noticing it. So that's the one negative thing about if you have created a motion for yourself and you've been getting away with it. So there's a certain time, it's like, look, how much time do I really want to put in this to make it work? And that's where realism comes in, realistic expectations. Off the bat, you can see this view here on the right side. We're going to take a look at your spine angle. Assuming I can still draw lines. I can't draw lines there. And hopefully we can get one there. Oh, good, we got one. Okay. And then the posture. Okay. You have to bear with me. I don't know what's going on with this swing catalyst today. It's in a bad mood. So if we take a look at your centeredness, we're going to draw it in green. There's the centeredness of your setup. So it looks fairly stable. We can see that there's the feet are a little bit more underneath. Now let's take a look at impact because we'll see how your body reacts to that impact. Yeah, you can see. Okay. So you notice how the centeredness of your setup, which is where all these axes are. Now, if we draw the centeredness, there's the center of your hip joints. That's typically what happens. Once you start setting up for a center, you have to figure out where that center is. The body does a very good job of finding that center in the golf swing. And when it finds that center, it's either going to stay there if you set up correctly, or it's going to move into that center if you started too far away, or it's going to back away from that center if you started too close. It needs to create room and utilize forces while you're rotating. So we see there's going to be an issue already. We've seen that we started a little too far back. Now we've moved into the golf ball significantly, which then puts pressure on your spine and it starts compressing into the golf ball. And that's going to create some issues. Now, when you start collapsing in, what usually happens is your club starts to shallow out. I hate that word, but it starts to shallow out. So you become more of this down here. So you can see the club is shallowing, it stays shallow, and then you strike the golf ball. Now you're essentially swinging up, not necessarily striking down on it. With an iron, that relies on your hands and arms to flip in time where that club is going to bottom out. So you're putting a lot of pressure on your hands and arms. So you can see on the right side of the screen, your hands and arms at impact. You can see how much they're going to be involved right there. So from here to here, we see the hands are throwing a little too soon, and then we just graze the ground. Sometimes you might not take divots depending on how your sequencing is. Sometimes you take heavy divots, sometimes it's thin. So I can see your contact issues all over the place. And then also that plays in your direction, because if your hands are really involved and they can open and close the club face relative to the path, that creates big dispersions. So it comes down to your talents. And if you're talented at doing this with your hands, you can get away with murder, basically. So I would look at your setup, making sure that setup is just maybe a little bit closer with the lower body so it doesn't put a lot of pressure on you. And then secondly, your initial takeaway. So if we delete all these lines here, we're going to draw where the shoulders should be tilting relative to that. But take a look at where your hands are going. So your hands are going to be pulling in. So they're probably trying to find a way to keep you balanced. And so because our balance point is back here, you can see the tilting is raising up, our heads moving slightly in, and our hands have to now pull that club back this way to kind of keep that center point in check. And so this is, again, that key center point. Now, if you want to lower that center point, so it's down over here, right now your center point's way up here. If you want to lower the center point so it's down to here, you'd have to set up a little differently to make sure you control that center point. So I just see there's a lot of this going on, and then pulling back that club head to keep you balanced. And now you're going to be leveling out your shoulders. And now when you level out your shoulders here, when you transition, you're going to have too much shoulder tilt, which then also gets your club to be flat. And then plus you're losing your spine angle, which flattens it out even more. So this would be a decent driver swing because you're swinging up, but you can't swing up on a iron. You need to control that low point. And one way is to make sure your tilting and turning is working correctly to your setup. And one way to make sure that's working correctly is to make sure you're not fighting weight distribution based on the centeredness of your setup. So where that club shaft is basically like this. So if the club shaft is low, your center point is going to be low. If the higher the club shaft gets, the more that centeredness shifts up, because it's going to be working on this axis, if that makes sense to you. Real one, what's up, AZ? Thank you so much. Pick me, coach. I don't smoke. What if I only pick you if you smoke? Kurt, if you want did you send a video in, Kurt? If you did, let me know. I can get you on right now. But if not, just send me a video, because we've got 30 of these. We've got some catch up. This whole week is going to be streams, Monday through Friday. No videos this week. Get through this. We're doing our 7th one today. And hopefully that did help you, Andrew. So just check your setup. So, play with that setup, learn your center point. And you can see after you finish on your left side, look where you finish and look where you lose your balance. So watch your toes. See how you fall towards your toes? And then watch the one on the right side. Where do you fall there? So your heels. So there's definitely some balance issue going on. And you have to figure out what's causing that based on your setup and where your little ball of energy is. You got to shift that ball around so it's supporting your hips. Find that support. And by that, I mean, and this goes for everybody at home, and your setup, like his ball of energy is here, but at impact, it shifts to here. But that's only because it's finding the centeredness of that. So in order to shift that ball of energy closer, he would have to actually set up so the club is down to here, if that makes sense, which means an extreme tilt, which doesn't make much sense because then his tilt is going to be off. So by shifting the feet closer, by raising your setup, you can change your little ball of energy to remain steady so you don't fight that. Joey, Kurt, Joey, and Dustin. Do we have time to do 3 more? Man, that's going to be a 10 streamer day. Let's take a look. Let me just delete the ones I've done. Give me a sec here. We got him. We got Bill. We got Christopher. We got Larry. We got the other Bill. And we just did Andrew. Okay, how many do we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. We got 24 more. 5, 10, 15, 20, 6, 12. That's 6 a day until Friday to get through everybody. But you know what? Since we have Kurt, see if I can find you, Kurt. Where are you? Kurt. I don't have Kurt on here. Kurt, do you have another name that you might have submitted it under? Joey? Where's Joey? No Joey. Let me refresh this. Maybe these are new submissions. I don't have Joey either. Dustin. Let's see if we have Dustin. Nope, I don't have Dustin either. If you guys submitted under a different name, let me know. I'll tell you who I have. I have Mark, Douglas, Jim, Kurt. Oh, there's Kurt. Okay, Kurt, I got you. Mike, Michael, Mark, Peter, Reggie, Clint, Stephen, Keith, Michael, John, Derek, Ahan, Joey, Jared, Greg, Gerald, Bailey, Matthew, Cameron. So let's pull up Kurt. Kurt, you lucked out. Kurt, let's take a look. See what's going on here. All right, you ready, Kurt? Let's delete him. Kurt, the man of the minute. Image 60. Here you go. All right. Does this look like you, Kurt? We got one. We got two. Is that you? Perfect. Kurt's up. All right. Let's take a look at the PDF. 65 years old, playing for 35. Few live lessons, but mostly just trying YouTube videos. Fairly good ROM, range of motion, but bilateral knee replacement. Pull hooks and pushes. Most go straight. If most go straight, what's the problem? Are you want to try and solve like why you pull and push? Is that the main thing here, Kurt? All right, you got it. That's a unique setup here. Let's see if you make it work. Close club face, forward press, really de-loft in the club. Let's see, do we add loft somewhere? Yeah, we add loft right there. Okay. Kurt, is there a reason why you set up like that? Is that just how you've naturally set up to the golf ball? Or have you worked with somebody to do that setup for any reason at all? 7-iron? Okay. All right. I see it, but I just want to know before we dive into it, because I don't want you to change anything unless that setup is not done with a purpose. So if you could just let me know you set up, just feels natural. Okay, so there's no rhyme or reason for that setup. You just said, hey, this feels like it should be done, and you make contact. Now, is that the way you set up for everything? All your irons or drivers, you have that forward press and kind of de-loft it a little bit? Because I do see, the way you set up, you are making in-swing changes to accommodate that setup. Now, I don't know if they're good changes. It sounds like you can time it pretty good because you hit most of them straight, with the occasional pull hooks and pushes. So pull hooks and pushes, we know we got face relative to path issues. It does look like you're a little bit steeper, tilt slightly for the driver. These are his notes, by the way. I'm not just having a conversation with myself. Okay, so look at the face on here, Kurt. So I'm not saying setting up like this is a bad thing. But there are some issues that come with this. One of it is in-swing principle changes that need to make that club work. Because right now, that 7-iron, like if we zoom in, you can see that 7-iron is almost at like a putter loft. Man, can we move it up here to where I can actually draw? I can't even draw. Kurt, you're getting I can only draw here. All right, nice. Well, hopefully you can see what I'm saying. This line here, it's almost like a putter. And putters are 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. So in order to expect you to get the air up in the air, the ball up in the air, there's a thing called spin loft. Now, spin loft is for some people that can forward press it. If they have a very high club head speed, they can get away with that because it basically takes that forward press into the ground and it levels it out based on your spin loft. Now, most of us don't have that ability. We're just not strong enough. Some do. But when you have this much forward press, can I draw now? Yeah, I can draw now, kind of. So we can only draw to here. I don't know why. When you have this much forward press and the ball is way back over here, you got some issues because something needs to happen. You need to move your center point, which right now is way ahead of the golf ball, back here at impact to get that club to be more of a launch that it needs to be, the 7-iron. Number two is if you don't do that, your hands have to be involved to try and scoop prematurely. So you'll start looking like this right before impact to try and add loft to that club to make it get up in the air. Because quite honestly, if you carry that angle and you sequence correctly, meaning your left hip bumps correctly, you carry that center point over correctly with an iron, that center point now is going to be way ahead of the golf ball, that you're going to go straight into the ground and you're going to break your wrist, you're going to break the club. Something pretty serious is going to happen. And your body recognizes this, so it's going to do some things. It's probably going to stand up to give you room so your hands will flip to add loft to that club. Now, can you get away with it? It sounds like you can. So you probably have pretty good hand-eye coordination. So you have to ask yourself, what do you really want to do? Do you want to change things around to accommodate this? You can see look at your body standing up, and then you see your right hand flicking under to try and add some loft. So if you take a look, if we take these all away and we look at where that shaft is pointing, where's that shaft pointing? To your right side, because it's trying to add loft to the club sooner because you've de-lofted it so much and that ball position's way back. You did not shift your centeredness back to compensate for this. This flip wouldn't look as bad if somehow you moved your whole body over to the right side to get that ball position relative to you. Now, there's plenty of ways to cure this, but number one, I think you have to just either accept this and just live with it because it's a very unique swing that has been built upon its setup. And the one issue when you have a unique swing is if you change any parts of this, it could be the ball position, that closing of the club face, the de-lofting, your whole in-swing principle that used to make this swing work is pointless now because it has a new position to work off of. So this is one of those where I would prefer you to change your setup and then recognize what needs to change in your in-swing principles. So if you want to do this, I would highly suggest you don't make a huge setup change. It needs to be slowly. Now, I know you said it looks back, and it isn't. It's actually in the middle. That could be the case. That's no problem. So if it looks back, that's a perception issue. But it's definitely, we got some forward press going on there and de-loft in the club face, and you have to make that work. So move the ball, even though it doesn't look back. It probably is because you can't get that much forward press unless that ball is somewhat back. So move the ball closer towards your left heel ever so slightly, and then try and reduce that forward press ever so slightly. So we're talking, a range session. Don't just all of a sudden go from where it is to way out in front and not get that forward press. Take it very, very slow and give yourself time to adapt to that change by your in-swing principles are changing. Now you can do it two ways. You can either just let it happen naturally, or you can just also pay attention to your in-swing principles. In other words, get the body more over towards your targeted impact. Try not to stand up as much because you don't need to add more loft because that ball position is changing. The forward press is lessening out. So you can do two of those. Let me see what he says here. Good example for a correct setup. It's hard because there is no good example. A rough way around that. Good example is what you currently have and what your in-swing principles use that for. So I can easily point you to like 10 people on tour saying, hey, go look at this person and try and capture their setup. But the problem is they have in-swing principles that support that setup, and you don't have in-swing principles that support that setup. So all we'll be doing is making things so frustrating for you, and you'll just hate this game. So for you, your in-swing principles right now back your forward press and your de-lofting. What you need to try and do is not de-loft as much and not forward press so much. So you need to move your ball position slowly more to your left center. Try not to tilt so much at the start of your swing. So lessen this tilt out. Get the center point, which is right where your buttons are, more over that golf ball, not out in front of it, because when you sequence correctly, you're going to move it even further back, and then you have to throw, and then you have to stand up too. So I hate to say that, because obviously if I have everybody from scratch, if I have 1,000 brand new people that have never played this game and teach them a pretty simple setup, the odds of those 1,000 people playing decent golf jump much more higher than if I said to 1,000 people, set up like this. And I'm not saying this setup is bad. I'm just saying that it's probably less likely to work in the long run for the majority of people. But somebody like you says, hey, this setup worked great, so this is my ideal setup. So you really have to look at what your current in-swing principles are and what your pre-swing principles are, because they balance each other naturally. So hope that makes sense to you and everybody else. Let me see here. Anybody else? We got Kurt. Who else said that? Joey. Let's take a look if we can find Joey. Let's get rid of Kurt real quick so we don't do him again. There's Kurt. All right, Joey. Do we have Joey here? Joey L. Is that your last name, Joey? Joey L. There it is. I got you, Joey. Perfect. Hopefully you're still on, Joey. You didn't leave. Let's download Joey. Looks like a new record stream for length. All right, Kurt. Man of the hour or man of the minute is now gone. New man of the minute. All right, we got one Joey. What's the other one? You got one Joey down the line, and there's Joey. Two Joey down the line. So it looks like, Joey, it looks like you just sent it down the line. So let's just make this one work. I don't see a face on. So sorry about that. Let's do the single recording. We can zoom in nicely now. And another lefty. What's that? 3 lefties this stream? And let's look at the PDF. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kurt. Going to be interesting. Yes, it is. It's always interesting. It's always a learning experience. Just since my platform didn't realize where we needed to upload. Yeah, Dustin, if you just go to the job form link, there's a couple, you can upload 2 videos, just send it in. This is probably going to be the last one of the night, just because this is like the 11th one we've done tonight. And we've done a pretty good job of making a dent into it. But if you did submit it tonight, it'll be done this week. I'm going to do live streams every day instead of videos just to catch us all up. So just have some patience. Sorry if I did that. I had both. No problem. My videos both online. Okay, no problem. All right, Joey. Thanks for doing this. 53 years old, been playing for 30 years or so, had many lessons over the years, can play only 7 months a year since I'm up in Quebec. Oh, you know the problem. You got to come down to the desert. You can play year-round. It's 120 for 4 months, but hey, you can still play. Been down to a 7-8 handicap now, but it's 13, mostly because the last few years I can't hit driver in the fairway more than 35% of the time. Yeah, that's tough. Driver used to be the club I hit the straightest. With an iron, I can't hit a fade to save my life. With driver, most of my shots are weak, high pushes to the left with the occasional snap hook. Okay, so let's see the path. Okay, path is inside. And the new front. Okay, I didn't get the front. Oh, let's see what we got here. It looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, that's a really good swing. Very LPGA-esque. We get a lot of rotation down on impact. This is definitely LPGA-esque. Look at that. Body's opening up to the target before you strike it. And we can tell there's a lot of rotation here. Once we turn here, we can see that the hands are still favoring that left side. So you are setting it, you rotate a lot, and then you rely on the hands and arms to kind of square that club face at impact. So I can see why You would have some issues some days if your release isn't quite on. It's going to get that club face relationship with the path a little bit off. So what are you looking to do out of this, Joey? You say you can only hit it 35% of the time. Man, I wish we had a face on, because it looks like you do go back here, like that extra little motion, and see what it does to your body too. See how the body increases its tilting towards the target. That lead knee kind of collapses in. So it's a sign that you're kind of starting to lean the other way a little too soon. Ball position, we'd have to check that. So there's this tiny bit of rerouting. But yeah, you look at that. It's pretty good. Maybe ever so slightly steep, but it's still... I often feel like my hands are late. Yeah, they would be. And hopefully you can see why. I mean, look at the amount of rotation you have. And that's a good thing. I mean, this is something that's pretty rare to open up this much before impact. Usually it's the other way around. Usually we're closed and we're into the golf ball, kind of like we shaft hump a little bit because we got some issues. Ball is pretty far ahead in my stance. So if we take a look here, I'm going to draw. Hopefully this thing will let me draw still. It's like a lottery now. Yeah. Would you say it's on your right foot, or is it inside the right foot? Because if it's on the right foot, it is potentially an issue with your path. Because the more it goes outside your right foot as a lefty, the more that path is going to be right as you turn. And especially specifically the way you turn into it, your path is probably going to be pretty hard right with that ball position. Which then, if you any amount of closure to that path, that ball's going rope Hooksville. High pushes to the left, occasional slap hooks. Okay, so there's the snap hooks. Yeah, I would say the high pushes as well could be ball position with that path off my big toe. Okay, yeah, I would say without looking at this face on, it's really hard to tell. I'd say your in-swing principles are pretty good. I mean, your setup looks pretty good too. So let's take a look, do a setup check real quick. Yeah, center point is nice. It's connected over the hip, so you probably don't lose a lot of posture. Let's take a look though. So there's your center point, and it's sitting over that hip. Maybe a little bit of posture loss at impact. No, you do a pretty good job. So in terms of your setup's working great. I would think it's the ball position. You move that ball position back slightly. That might help you. And then maybe the alignment too. So it looks like your shoulders are slightly open here, and that could be the ball position being too far out. Sometimes we reach for that ball position by, turning our upper body more to reach there, which starts you, with a little steeper plane. So you might have to pull that club inside to compensate that. So just tighten things up. I think in-swing principles are beautiful. Your setup's great. Your rotation's great. The sequencing's great. You get LPGA-esque with the rotation. That last second hand thing could be the ball position. So back it up. Do it slowly though. Back it up. Half a ball and then one ball. But then also just square these out a little bit, and then just stay in your balance. You do a really good job. I wouldn't go and reinvent any wheel here. Try the real basic stuff first. It's like troubleshooting anything. You don't. If I have problems with my computer, I don't get a new motherboard. I just trouble sort. So give that a try. Yeah, you can see, look at this first part of the takeaway. Watch the hands. See how the hands are immediately come above that plane? That's possibly due to the shoulders being slightly open. So that changes your path a little bit upright right away. So if you square that out, your path will be more consistent. You won't lose some motion this way, and it'll probably alleviate this top excess motion because you're not trying to reroute. You can see that reroute at the top. So right there, that tiny little reroute. It's a little long there with the hands, but give that a try first before I start saying more stuff. Get you down a path you don't want to go down. Okay, hopefully that helps you, Joey. Let me know in the comments in a couple of weeks once you try it. Take it very small, ball position back ever so much. But then just listen to yourself. Like you'll reach a point where you're probably flushing pretty good. Stick there. Don't move it back. And then face on too. So if you want to send this to me again, 2-3 weeks down the line, just so I can double check it for you. Make sure the face on is there as well, so we can double check that ball position and just kind of see how things are working from there. But no problem, Joey. I appreciate that. Appreciate all your support for the channel too. That's it for tonight. We've done 11, maybe 12. I've lost count, which is great. So we have, I think, 18 more. So let's shoot for 6 a day until we get it done. Any new submissions that just came in today will be done this week as well. And then we'll be all caught up for the live stream. And then we'll be back to doing this once a week on a regular basis, probably Sunday to start the new week off. But there's going to be no videos this week just because I'm doing this red light stream. So if you don't see any videos from me from a week, I haven't gone missing. I'm going to be here every day. So come join us every day around this time, 5 or 6 o'clock. We'll bang it out, have a little party, and then back to videos. And we got a giveaway coming up probably in a week or so, some rangefinders. We're going to give away 9 or 10 rangefinders. So make sure you hit that subscribe, get your notifications on for that. And other than that, I appreciate everyone's support.